This is Faces of Atlantic, where we go beyond titles and talk about the real human side of leadership. I'm Terri-Ann Richard, your host, and today I'm sitting down with Elizabeth, who is going to share some of her stories, some of her experiences in leadership, and all the cool work she's been doing across North America. And we're going to uncover the story behind this leader. So, hey, Elizabeth.
Hey, Terri-Ann, so glad to be here.
I'm super stoked to have you here. So I have known Elizabeth for a good number of years. Funny enough, many moons ago, she actually trained me in mental health. Remember, I got my mental
That's
health
right.
certificate like many years ago. She was a fantastic
Yes.
trainer, and I fell for her at that point. And so she's been chumming around ever since. But I'm going to pretend I know nothing about her today so that you can all learn all the ooey gooey juicy bits that I've learned over the years. So Elizabeth, before we dig in and talk about what you do professionally and how you're making impact across the country and beyond, when I strip away all your titles, the stuff I can't probably see, on LinkedIn, who are you really?
Great question. Diving right into the deep end of the pool. I love it. I would say I'm a helper. Yeah, I would say I'm a helper. And yeah, I know that that's something that you and I think, have in common. And I want to say as well that I equally fell for you all those years ago. I think we had been circling each other. We were in each other's orbit
Yes.
for a while, right?
Yes.
And yeah, so that was back when, like in the early days of when I was doing mental health first aid training. And it's a program that I still do. And one of the coolest things about that is that I get to connect. So that program is all about teaching helpers how to help, more or in a different way. And yeah, one of the things I love the most about it is that over the years, I've gotten to meet so many more helpers, right? People who realistically, when you were in that training, you were probably like, yeah, duh, of course, these are the things that we do, right? Like, because it aligned with who you are as a leader as well. So yeah.
Now you're also a dog owner. And I just have to say that because I don't know. There's just something about a fellow dog owner that I love. Can we talk about your dogs for a second? Do you have two
Oh,
still?
I have two, and then I have a step dog as well.
Ooh, we have
My partner's
three.
8-year-old lab. Yes, yes.
Okay. Now your two dogs, tell me what's their breed again?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So did not expect the interview to go here, but yeah, my heart's exploding. So Ruby is a Weimaraner. So she's my little anxious Annie. For anyone who knows that breed, they're known for being prone to separation anxiety. But I like to say that I also have separation anxiety when I'm away from her. So we're well matched. And Violet is a German short-haired pointer. So super, super high energy. And then my dear little Trapper, who has come into the family just within the past couple years. He's like your stereotypical lab he kind of wants to like lay around and whatever. Yeah, my girls who are younger and very high energy, he's like, what are these creatures? Poor little guy.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. Thank you for humoring me because I think there's something special about dog owners. So
It's
let's
so
talk about
true.
what you do on a day-to-day basis because you're a very busy woman. I mean, calculated in your busyness. I know that, but you have multiple levels and spaces and how you show up for the folks that you support. So can you share a little bit about what your company's name is and then the work? Because you have a few brands. So we'll start with sort of the main one that I know you think I'm thinking of, and then we'll go to the others. But share
Awesome.
about like what's your company? What does it do? Who is it for? Because there's going to be folks that are going to tune into this and be like, "Hey, I know of her. Awesome, have had her before," or "I don't know of her." And what problems does she solve? What solutions does she deliver? So take it away.
Yeah, what I think of as my real job is that I'm a psychological health and safety consultant. So interesting in that field, like there's even within the last, I would say, year or two, the term psychological safety suddenly is everywhere, which is very, very exciting. So right now, what the appetite seems to be for, I'm doing a lot of consulting work with organizations who are looking to identify psychosocial hazards in their workplaces, kind of in the same way that it's been commonplace for decades to do physical hazard analyses, right, of our workplaces. So identifying where those little gaps or hazards exist, and then what steps can we take to mitigate those risks. So I'm doing a lot of that, helping organizations to develop frameworks that uphold a psychologically safe and healthy work environment. I do a lot of training, custom built solutions for organizations who are struggling with. I always say to potential clients, you don't have to know what you're looking for. You just have to tell me the problem. It's my job to figure out, you know, what might fit the bill. So yeah, that's kind of my main job. And then yeah, back in the days when I was starting out as a mental health first aid trainer, back when we first connected, I still run that program. It's a standardized program. It's evidence based. So it's a really like tried and true program. There's another program kind of type that's also from the Mental Health Commission of Canada now that it's been really well received the last couple of years, called the Working Mind. And I
Mm.
describe that as it's kind of like the workplace specific adaptation of mental health first aid. So there's a program for leaders, a program for employees. So yeah, I like to say that when I'm giving like a very long drawn out recap of my day to my partner, I'm like, aren't you lucky you get to listen to me for free? Like I talk for a living and you won't even get an invoice after this.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, do you find that most organizations at this point are leaning in to this as something that's it's important, as in like it's on the list, it's in the budget, it's in the talks, they're speaking about it in the
Mhm.
boardroom. Like you're no longer having to potentially, I don't want to say sell, but like prove that it's necessary?
Yeah, you're bang on. I think there's better recognition now. Like when I first started out in 2012, delivering training on mental health in the workplace, a lot of organizations were kind of like, mental health? Like, what would that have to do with work? Right? That was,
Mm,
if you're struggling with something, well, that's what weekends are for. Deal with it, check your problems at the door. And now, in just that short a time, too, I mean, that wasn't 100 years ago, right? But yeah, we've come a long ways just in the last handful of years. And I think there's much more recognition now, especially in leadership, that this is not a soft, fluffy thing. It's really directly related to performance, right? And then I would even say that when I look on the horizon, I'm feeling hopeful and optimistic that even beyond, because there's tons of, this stuff can be integrated into KPIs, we can assign an ROI to it, but there's more recognition now, and I think there will be going forward, that who wouldn't want to work in a place where people genuinely care for one another, right? Like, even
mm,
aside from just this, like, how many dollars you get per dollar that you invest or whatever, who wouldn't want to show up in a place where you feel like you're seen as a human being? And, we all have great days, crappy days, somewhere in between. You never know when you put your pants on in the morning what that day is going to throw your way, right? So, of course, life is going to be better for every single one of us if we're able to show up as our authentic selves. And when we go to work, we don't have to put the mask on, right? We can bring our authentic selves to work. If I was going through something tough, I want to feel like, yeah, those people who I spend a ton of time with every week, they would recognize if I was behaving a little bit differently or if my mood seemed off, and they would care enough to ask, right?
yeah, so true. When you work with, I mean, because you're working with organizations of all different sizes from all over and in different sectors, what are you seeing as the common thread? And maybe I'll add to this, like, where are you seeing almost the easiest, lowest hanging fruit that
Mm.
is the easiest shift and change for those organizations? And I mean, I know always first it's awareness, but then there's always those next couple steps. Is there sort of a common thread that you could share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sense of belonging at work, and like what I mentioned a minute ago, that feeling of being able to show up as your true human self, I think
Mm,
leaders really set the tone there, right? And leaders historically, if you think of kind of the stereotypes around strong leaders, it's someone who they know all the answers, they've got it all figured out. They're this fearless person with the cape on their back, and everyone goes to them because they know what's up. They've got the answers. That's not realistic. That's not a realistic expectation to have of leaders. And it's so much undue pressure that leaders put on themselves, I think, sometimes. So, to foster that real sense of belonging, leaders need to model vulnerability, right? Like, if you
Mm,
don't know the answer, it's okay to say, yeah, I don't know, or to say, yeah, I'm nervous about that too. You know,
yeah.
so I think it's such a powerful message. And it's this twofold benefit because not only is it great modeling for those you work with, but for the leader themselves, what I hear is, whew, that feels great. Like that feels
Yeah.
awesome to just, so, and I think if we want to feel that true sense of belonging, that's where it's got to start. Like we've all got to be willing to be vulnerable. And that ultimately is what psychological safety is all about. If I'm scared to make a mistake or if I'm scared to not have the answers, that means there's psychological safety lacking, right?
Yeah, 100%. So now you work with both leaders and the teams, is that correct? Okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
what is the energy? Because I think, as I work with organizations, the vibe that I get a lot of times is a lot of organizations have tried a lot of wellness programs. There's been a
Mm.
lot of things that they've put in place, and there's all sorts of surveys going out, and they're trying to get data to understand where their people are. But people sometimes, I don't know if they lose trust, but maybe they lose belief in what's going to be done because, they've given the information, they've shared with their superiors. There was a yoga class last Friday. There was this, there was that. And so, what is the energy that you're seeing across teams of, noticing or noting that their leaders are now saying, okay, we're going to put this program in place, or we're going to start putting these policies or these frameworks in place? Are they being positively received, or are they feeling like, oh, it's just another thing they're going to try?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I would say very, very, very mixed in my experience. Or you mentioned like there was a yoga class last Friday. My go-to example is the pizza party. The pizza party. Like
Yes,
a pizza party is not a wellness initiative.
it's not.
It's not, right? It's not even an effective recognition strategy. It's a sort of a nothing, right?
It
Like
is.
everyone
Yes.
can buy their own pizza. Like
Yeah.
it's, yeah. So what I see is, I mean, I see it sort of like both ends of the spectrum and everywhere in between. I think one of the keys is, well, history, I would say, like plays a big part of it, right? That if historically people have been responding to those surveys and then they see it going nowhere, or leaders are paying lip service to it, but they're not putting their money where their mouth is. But I think transparency all along the journey is so important because I've seen it actually work really beautifully where there's been a total turnaround. There's been kind of a lack of trust that this is going to go anywhere. And then leaders have said, you know what? We hear you and we have dropped the ball on this before. We have sucked at this. We've asked you for your input, then we haven't done anything with it. But here's why this time is different. And then really engaging the entire team so that they feel they have a role to play in the journey, right? And like part of that role sometimes is being patient. Part of that role should be asking good questions, right? I think employees should feel like they can kind of take their leadership to task a little bit on, well, maybe that was not the right way to phrase that, but they should be able to feel comfortable saying, where are things at with that, right? Like for
Yeah.
there to be some accountability measures there. So I would say that's where I see the greatest success is when there's real engagement and it's a sense of collaboration, right? Like that neither party can do this without the others.
That's awesome. So let's kind of pivot a bit and talk about you. Because I think, you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you're a trainer, you're a consultant, you run multiple, businesses. And so there's a lot of balls in the air, there's a lot going on. How do you stay grounded? How do you deal through, the chaos and the changes
Mm.
of just society and the world in general? What is it that you do to help to maintain that inner peace and to keep yourself grounded?
Hardest question yet. I would say, as you were speaking and you were like, how do you do? In my head, I was going, not well, not well is the answer sometimes. I would say what I strive for, because of course there's going to be in entrepreneurship, there's peaks and valleys, there's tough times, there's stuff that you haven't seen coming, all of that, as you know very well.
Yes.
I would say a real key for me is I've worked really hard the last 2 or 3 years, especially to establish some semblance of balance and in my life, as in about 2 years ago, I decided I'm going to see what all the fuss is about with weekends. I never understood why do people care so much about the weekend. I can look back now and say, well, yeah, I didn't have it happened to be a Saturday or a Sunday, but even if I wasn't sitting at my desk, I was constantly making notes. My brain was still like 100% plugged into work. Anything that I did for fun, it was just sort of like this little side thing, like I wasn't really
Fully.
fully present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have felt that.
Yes,
I have felt
no
that.
doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
find
hard.
the boundaries are hard when you are your own boss. And I think maybe
Mm,
just in general, like anybody who's passionate about the work that you do, it's so easy to just consider it and start thinking about it. And then as new
mm,
ideas, and then, with the invention of AI, and it's like, it's right there. So you're like, I'm trying to watch a show with, my hubby, and I'm relaxing. And I'm like, but I wonder about this thing. And I start researching
yeah,
it. And then the ideas start to go, and all of a sudden the whole show's gone. And I'm like, what, what happened? Did,
I
did,
know.
did he die? What, like, where'd he go? What
And
happened?
your husband, I'm sure, is like, this again, right?
Yeah,
Like,
this again.
he's seen it
Where'd you
before.
go, Terri-Ann? Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally get that. So it sounds like you've put some perimeters in place. Does that mean you
Mm.
like don't work on the weekends? Does that mean like you lock your phone in a treasure chest? Like, what do you do?
Generally, I would like, and I will be the first to say, I do not have, yeah, I mean, I will certainly write a book on it if I ever find like the answer, because there is like, yeah, I totally, totally get what you're saying. I feel similarly because I do genuinely love the work that I do. And actually, in trainings, I say a lot, this concept of work-life balance. If someone is really invested in your organization's mission and the work that the organization does, for them, it's probably going to look a little more like work life blend or work life integration. Those are terms we hear a lot more now, right? But with that said, it can't be so blended that you can't see, any edges. So, yeah, for me, it's been a game of trial and error.
Cool.
I would say generally now I take weekends off. Now, are there times when I have a great idea and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write a couple notes about it? I do, but I'm able with practice, I feel like I've been able to, okay, I've got it written down. It's not going anywhere. And Monday morning, I'll be looking forward to diving into it. I actually just did a couple of weeks ago. I was on vacation with my partner in Mexico, and I did a LinkedIn post on what are people's thoughts. Like, if you're a leader, if you're an entrepreneur, yeah, because I was away for a week and a half. And yeah, logistically and just mentally, I don't know, my own connection to my work, that would feel too long for me. Even if, I mean, I had an auto reply set, like it would have been fine if I had totally disconnected, but I don't actually like to do that. So I was curious what other self-employed folks would say. And it was funny, the comments, it was sort of all across the board, but it was really neat for me to see what tiny little things people are putting in place for themselves that help them to find that little bit of balance. So, yeah, I do
Yeah.
also in the evenings now, like I have it set on my phone so that like across all my devices, it goes into do not disturb at 7 in the evening. So I at least don't have the little pings that I can't resist looking at. So
I
I
love it.
guess it's just about finding what works for you, right? Playing
It is,
around
and
with
and
it.
and I find like we can go in extremes. I was with a client this weekend, and he was like, "You never answer your phone," and that's the truth. I don't answer my phone. I put my phone
Same,
on.
same.
I put my phone on mute in 2015, and it's
Okay, that's long. Yeah.
I know, and it's never come back on. Like my kids will be like messaging me on every platform, like "mom, mama, mother." Like I'll have like 50,000 messages because my phone's always on mute. Because I'm like, I'll look at it every like 20 minutes or 30 minutes and be like, "What's going on?
At my
Like what's going
convenience.
on?"
Yes.
Right? But I don't want it binging and dinging at me. I started to feel like
Yeah.
I was like a slave to it, and I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah. Yeah.
control me, Mr. Phone.
Yes. Well, that
Yeah,
is a good way to take back control from Mr. Phone. Yeah. Like
yeah.
to be, I will check in with it regularly, but it's going to be on my time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Okay,
point.
cool. So as you start to look towards your future and you're kind of painting a picture for like where you're headed and where you want to continue to make impact, where do you foresee your path leading you next? Like, what does it look like for you? Because I think I've kind of
Mm.
been witness, as a peer, as a friend over here, watching the evolution of you and your entrepreneurship and the cool things you're doing with your businesses. Where do you see yourself headed in the next, 2 to 5 years?
If there is one thing that I have learned about entrepreneurship, actually, and I'm a super type A person, you know this about me, my color coded day planner, but it has been an exercise for me to let go of the planning a little bit because life has proven to me, and being in business for myself has proven to me. There are things that, oh my gosh, like best laid plans, right? Like if you, I mean, it's good to have some structure and some aspirations and some goals, but I'm much better now. I guess that would factor in with my, sort of keeping things balanced approach now. I'm much more loose on letting opportunities come up and putting myself in a
Mm,
position where I'm able to grab onto whatever really excites me. And
yeah,
I think in the work that I do, I feel so lucky to be in this place at this moment because the stuff that I have believed in so deeply for so many years, now organizations are going, yeah, that's true. That is true. That's what, so I feel really, just really grateful and lucky, yeah, to be in a position where I'm going to be able to walk next steps with organizations who are ready to do that. Yeah, I would
I
say
like that.
aside from that, I'm pretty open and just optimistic and excited for whatever life life and business throws my way.
I love that. I love that. Okay, well, I'm going to wish all of that and more for you, and that you're able to find the peace and the integration on the in between. I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing more about you and the work that you do and the impact that you're making. And, it's exciting and heartwarming to hear that so many organizations are leaning into this in the way that will really make impact. Because I feel like it's the butterfly effect, right? Like when you make impact in an
Mm.
organization, that impact flutters out into communities, into schools, into families. And so I think that the work that you're doing is making a massive impact. So kudos to you for doing it. Keep doing the good work. Keep smiling and
Oh,
having fun while you're doing it.
thank you, my friend. And you are such an inspiring leader. You are changing, you are shaking up the world around you when you talk about that butterfly effect. My gosh,
Well, well, thank
it's
you.
so cool to get to watch you do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you have an amazing week, and cheers to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.